I gotta turn up the music just a little bit, I feel. I just need to turn up on the gain on the actual thing. I want to turn it down on like my end. I just feel like it's a little loud for me, but it's not loud enough for you guys. Let me see. We got chapter tomorrow. Pretty stoked. I want to get through the general kind of lower end fights. I like those ones. I'm more interested to see in how the situation is solved and the mechanics are handled. Because I don't think that it's gonna be just like I don't think that like Lucy Gray off screening Genai and Kotetsu should happen. But I think that their issue should be solved relatively fast. I do not think it should be dragging on more than. I mean, really, I want to say like this chapter. Like I do not think that any of Lucy's contending opponents for this bit shouldn't last beyond what we get tomorrow, because I just don't see them as like the things that people like would want to focus on, but I also don't think it's something that the plot should focus on. It just doesn't seem like a big end thing, because really Sai is just a trick dude. He's got little niche aspects his ability, and that's realistically it. I think Gray will be fine. Let me just post it up on the Twitter. I like how Brandish is going to indirectly get things, because logically anything that Lucy can do as Brandish can do as well. It just depends on Brandish's mindset. Like, I would love to see Brandish in a fight where she's not being lazy at all and she's not holding back. Because I feel like... Sorry, I had to... Orange, it took me a second after I started to actually get fully set up. I almost forgot to have water. But I was going to say, with Brandish, she's just kind of like last two streams. So this one was late. Essentially, I should have my schedule for this current job. So the schedule will get tweaked a little bit, but there'll still be streams set. Don't worry. It's more of just kind of like the set times of those days are getting realigned. But I tried to stream on Saturday. To be perfectly honest, though, there just wasn't a lot of stuff going on, because like there's really like Black Clover out. There was no Fairy Tale that week. Seven Deadly Sins, or I guess Four Nights. Four Nights really just had like a general chapter. Gachi Akuda was on break too. What's up, Red? How you doing today? See, Sam, I don't take that take seriously, because I'm willing to bet you don't think at all about like the variables in the fight. You just saw Urza was losing last time, so she has a lower power level than the Signario sisters. Well, I mean, Brandish wasn't scared of Nineheart. Nineheart was buffed up by Irene and had abilities that he wouldn't have normally that let him resist her abilities. Just saying. Like I said, I mean, if you guys want to ignore context, you go ahead, but don't think I don't remember what the context of events are. Now, how's the music? I got this, I went and got it from one of the games, one of the DS games. Dude, what's funny is I saw clips from the One Piece live action. The thing that's going to bother me forever is they let one of those, like, what should clearly not have made it through quality control make it through, where Zoro does the ground roll and it ends up bending his sword. But the thing is, okay, I'll just straight up tell you, because again, you don't pay attention to the context, and that's what I'm talking about. Nineheart is a caster. So when you're using a casted spell on him, his resistance is going to come into play, especially something that's enhanced beyond where he's at normally. Natsu is not using a ranged casting set of abilities. He is using... Oh, I'm just watching this guy crash in a simulator. He's using straight physical moves. So somebody like Nineheart, a summoner who generally their weakness is being physically attacked themselves, is going to be a problem. What's up, Crystal Sanders? How you guys doing today? And one thing I don't want to mention, I don't want to go talk about it too much, because I just want to have a nice stream. I don't want to go too much into the overarch plans. Next, I'll mention again later, but I'll just go through it fast. On Saturday, we're going to have a members set community day where we're going to play Terraria. So if anybody's interested in that, just kind of obviously the join button is there. And obviously we're going to start looking in for more content to do outside of the general channel. And it's all going to be just for, giving back to the people, like something to do that helps support me and the channel. Obviously, like I said, that's something that's just going to be additional. I want to plan out some stuff first before we even really kind of plan out any larger scale games. So I think something like Terraria would be really fun. And then we can kind of work towards something else. Actually, I was looking at Chivalry. I think for the people who've never played it, a group game of Chivalry would be so fucking funny. Like, it's such a hilarious melee game. I wish they had a little bit more kind of campiness to it, but it is what it is. Need Scarlett Johansson that'd be awful. Scarlett Johansson, isn't she like 45? Like, she's pretty old. Or is it the start of the series is what, 19? Let's see. Freaking Sam and Nev's deleting comments. The thing is, like, it would be weird. Scarlett Johansson is way too old to play Urza. That's just a bad move in general. Like, you probably should get somebody that actually looks the part, and not somebody who just played a character with red hair in a different piece of media. It'd be like, we should get... I'm trying to think who would be... Danny DeVito actually can play Makarov. I'm not mad about that. I think that'd be spot on. Best version of cosplay we've seen, to be honest. The Rock Happy. I mean, they would do something like that. Tom Holland voices Happy. The part of Juvia played by Zendaya. It'd be awful. That actually would be awful. I don't want any. I just don't want any live action like Fairy Tail at any point. I don't think we need that. I know for some people are gonna act like, oh man, you should have more live actions now. No, we shouldn't. Like, listen, unless we see just these guys taking these risks to do these live actions and we have consistent faithfulness, I don't want to hear it. Okay, until we have consistent, like, I need at least like 3 or 4 more bangers within the next, like, less than 10 years. Like, we need more quality, like, time ones. So it's like, okay, well, we can trust these guys to keep doing it. I don't want it to be like, all right, One Piece got a faithful live action, and then everything else after that people just assume is going to be good, and then turns out to be ass. Can't have that. Todd Knotts. See, I don't really care about the Fairy Tail dub that much. I'm not a huge fan of the dub. I really don't like some of the wording changes they do, especially. Some of the dialogue shift they do in the dub, I can tell that they just kind of thought it would sound cooler, and they ignore what the context is for the dialogue for the characters. Yeah, I don't want there to be a live action. The thing is, like, you would need to have Jalal in live action. Jalal would be a perfect Season 1 villain. I wonder what they would do differently, like, in terms of the timeline. Maybe they would set up Season 1 to end with Phantom Lord and Season 2 to go in for... in through the Tower of Heaven. It would depend. I don't want them to ever, like, I don't want to find out the answer to that one. I would rather it just stay as it is. Like, I would much rather we just get 100 Years Quest as really nice animation quality, and that's it. See, we don't need the idea of a live action. A live action does not sound fun. That's the thing. A live action is just, like, the live action is such a dice roll on whether or not it's going to turn out well. And from what I've seen, I feel like if I didn't know anything about One Piece, just watching the One Piece live action, it would be kind of weird. It's still just kind of like this weird campy this campy show, pretty much, that is based off a Japanese series. I don't know. No hiccup there. I don't know whether or not I would really like it based off of nothing. Because, like, if I wasn't an anime fan, I feel like the anime-ness in it might bother me. I don't know. It just kind of depends. I mean, they please their core audience. That's really what the main mission is. So, I mean, like, they already won. They already got that whole setup. They got a live action that was nice. It was like when the Bleach live action came out. Like, when the Bleach live action movie came out and is actually good, I remember people just were generally in a good mood. Yeah, we just need a quality adaptation for 100 Years Quest. I really honestly don't care about live actions. Like, live actions, I think only some series should ever be set as a live action. Like, I feel like if I went and watched, like, I don't really want to, but I kind of do just to kind of test my theories. I feel like the live action for One Piece is, it's one of those things, if you're a One Piece fan, you probably appreciate a lot more, but I imagine, like, lots of, like, small nods and, like, references and stuff isn't going to be as entertaining as, like, if you're going into it without being a fan. I could be wrong. I don't know anybody that's watched it blind, but I feel like if you're not already, like, into that kind of style of series, I mean, maybe there's some people that, like, they don't care if it's a live action or care if it's animus, but they like the goofy adventure style of it. They might go more for that, or maybe they're just like Zorro. I know that's a high possibility, actually. See, I would love to have another movie instead. I would really like to have another movie. I would love, like, a prequel movie or something that has to do more with the lore. Like, if they did, oh yeah, we're gonna do a 3-part special, and it has to do with, like, it's just an Acnologia expansion, or, anything like that that's just kind of like a huge plus. Dude, we're not gonna have Jared Leto as the fucking Shura. Come on, give me an actual question. See, I don't want any form of live action. Like, I feel like the live action is too much of a dice roll, like I said, because you could easily sink any interest, like, new fans have in your series if it isn't. Like, if it's not ready to actually enhance the series and to pull more people into fandom, I don't really know what the point of it is. Natsu's past with Igneo. That doesn't need to be a movie, though. Like, why would you make that a movie? That's going to be, like, a week of pretty much just a kid and a dragon. See, I don't think we need more lore. It's like for specific stuff like that, we already have everything. The thing I think that we would need more of is stuff like pre-Dragon Slaying Dragon War. Like, what was Igneo like way earlier on? See, God Serena, I just don't see God Serena really doing anything in this. Well, I see him having a fight. I just don't really see what he's going to provide as terms of, like, a direct threat that's going to be that scary for Jalal. I think Jalal's fine. I think he's got it. I mean, really, he's got one of the most versatile movesets in the series. He's one of the most intelligent people combined with his magic itself, not even talking about, like, stuff he knows outside of Heavenly Body magic, is just really good. I mean, having as many spells as he does, and then, like, even stuff that he hasn't used in a long time that's still really good, like Alta Iris, is nasty. Like, he could use that now, like, after not having used it since, what, like, 2008, 2009, and still be fine. Because, like, it's going to go up to where he's at now, and then he's going to eventually just be, like, freaking catching bodies just from it. Dead Rock chapter. That's the only one that you like right now. I mean, people only want to talk about, like, how edgy it is. Like, I like it, but it's like Iron Dancy and you just like, oh man, you caught us dark. Oh, I'm knocking stuff over. See, I don't agree. Like I said, I think the Jalal fight is one of the most type things going on right now. Duke's character display so far actually has been really good. I like that, even though it's like not an apparition. I guess apparition of him is, like, an easy word to use, but I guess, obviously a concept embodiment. I think that the expansion of the world and just seeing a lot of the general lore from it has been fantastic. Like, I love stuff that just gives more of a scope at what you're trying to grasp and understand. Alchemy's been really cool. The only thing I would say about alchemy is I want to see it utilized more in actual combat, because we've only seen, like, chunks of each of these styles. Like, the direct, more kind of weird elemental alchemy. You have something more of, like, weird thought alchemy that Sai has. And then world-altering alchemy, concept alchemy, human transmutation. We just need to get on that where it's just going to stay there. I've heard some movie they show more of the Dragon War. I think what they should do for a movie, like, if they did a movie, they should do, obviously, post events of Alvarez, before 100 Years Quest, and you show stuff leading up to like Natsu like full accepting the quest, because you have a whole year of events. You have a continent of not a lot of stuff that's so far been expanded upon. Like, do something with the Penguard Kingdom. You could easily have some really interesting thing where they decide now that Acnologi and Zareth are out of the way. Like, oh, I have actual knowledge and confirmation. Because I feel like they have at least the numbers for that kind of recon that they'd be able to start taking over their kingdoms. I think that'd be really cool. Like, just another short war would be awesome. I think we'll introduce... how do you think we'll be introduced to the Ignia arc? I think when they get to where Ignia's at, it's just going to be post... Like it's either going to be some form of... Oh, yeah, we need to ride into the city. It's going to be more of just, like, heat right when they get there. I don't mean, like, it's a joke, but I mean... Right when we get there, it's like things are going to be wild and we're going to not be in a safe spot. Or it's going to be essentially in the aftermath where Ignia is just like by himself and you have to go to this ruined kingdom that he's at. So I think it'd be cool if Ignia doesn't have a set place. It's just whatever, he just stays at the last place that he completely incinerated and demolished. At least from what I would assume. I feel like that would be a really cool character trait aspect. Because it would really just kind of like add layers onto his, his danger. Because all the other Dragon Gods have had a set location, a place generally associated with them. Selene kind of jumped over to the Diablos Guild Hall. But as they were, Ignia having essentially wherever he's last been at, it would be pretty hype. We have to see exactly what Mishima has planned, though, for him. Because we still have to... we still have everything obviously going on with Viernes we have to get through. It's just Sam doing the same dumb Jalal takes. I don't know why he thinks that they're still going to go through. Listen, my guy, Jalal remains really cool. I mean, I'm just gonna put you in timeout for a bit. I get it, man. I get it. It's the same jokes that you don't like Jalal every time. I understand. Yeah, that makes sense considering Ignia's actively seeking Natsu. Well, he's not seeking him. He can find him really easy. It's more of just like he's waiting. He's being more patient about it. He's not like Zareth, where Zareth seemed to be more off to the side and kind of chilling while things got set up. Dragon God lore. I would love to see some flashbacks. Like, I want to see them before they became Dragon Gods and then kind of like that active push up into that adventure. Not adventure, I guess that climb. Definitely see Ignia wanting to fight in some ruined continent to be destroyed. I think that'd be really cool. I think Mishima would be absolutely just off to such a perfect start if once they get to their fight, they do one of those moves, like let's go fight somewhere where nobody else is around so they can just go full destructive mode. I think that'd be amazing. Like, stuff like that I think is always really cool. I know people are gonna like immediately go back to like a Dragon Ball reference, but I mean I think that would make sense with Mishima. If we know he's a big fan of Dragon Ball, so I think it would all fit in there. So once we get to Ignia, I mean Ignia's gonna be his own beast. It's really gonna depend, but I mean it's not really gonna depend. It's gonna depend on what Mishima's tone for that arc wants to be. Whatever Ignia's minions are, I think that is more interesting to me, but that is what it's gonna depend, because I think that he can pretty much my belief is he's going to force people into becoming dragons, because though there aren't really many dragons left out in the world, there are ways to make dragons. There are ways to turn humans into dragons. So from what we understand, I like, especially with the fact he doesn't seem to really care at all about the gap between humans and dragons. He kind of just seems to just do and talk about whatever he wants, which I like that about him. I like that he just has his own kind of like thing going on. Nothing else seems to be tied to what his plans are. Like, unless it's like fit into Ignia's agenda, he doesn't seem to really have any set decisions. Also, really fast, we got some people showing up. I'd really appreciate if you thumbs up the stream. Also, we got a plan coming up this weekend for anybody who wants to join. We're going to have a Terraria community day for all members of the channel on Saturday. We're going to be playing for some games in the Discord server. I think it's going to be a fun time. I haven't played in a while, so we're going to start building a house. and we're gonna have to designate. You're gonna have to designate rooms for people. So it's gonna go poorly, but I think it's gonna be a good time. We need at least like an idea of how many children Celine has or had, and then how many are alive still. Like if she says, "Oh, I had 5, and only 2 of them are left now," I think that's perfect. What if it turns out they're the Signario sisters are Celine's? Actually, I think that would be a really cool plot twist. Chaos's content. Yeah, it would be fun though. Like I don't remember the last time anybody here has played Terraria. The thing I like about Terraria versus Minecraft is Terraria has a lot of just like small niche items in the game that can just like one item perk up your entire gameplay. Because that's something I felt like Minecraft really needed that I think mods always really improved. Is there were things that if you just got lucky and you got one item, it can really boost up whatever you do for the rest of the game. I think that's cool. I'm a big fan of that. Like, I love games like that, where it's, you just got lucky. You decided to do some dungeon or some, like, mob. It drops an item that's really uncommon to get, some really rare item that does whatever extra thing with your abilities. And now you're essentially OP at your level until that item falls out of favor. Stuff like that is cool for me as hell. I don't think all of Celine's children will be dead, but I assume that she's got probably more dead ones than alive ones. I mean, just it's not about the randomness of the item. It's about adding value and boosting where you're at to where it's a gameplay thing. It's like, imagine it's like you played a game where, I don't have it's this thing of the ability of like going through a game and you don't have a shield to block, and now you have a shield to block, or going from a dagger to a sword. But then it's like the idea of like, okay, well now you got a sword that can shoot beams like Zelda, and you have a ranged attack. It's stuff like that. I mean, you're talking about Phantom Lord Arc Laxus, the current Laxus. I mean, I feel like I shouldn't even have to really go into much of the gap between that for anybody who actually pays attention to the series. Come on. I think Igni kidnapping Lucy throughout Nazis's power can invoke his anger. I mean, that's very likely. I mean, Igni is not going to care when it comes down to it. I mean, Lucy's life does not matter to him whatsoever. I think when he gets to that point, he's just going to be like, all right, this is the plan. You have no say in this. Let's go. Let's get this going. And he's just going to try and make sure to get shit done. Because it's just the kind of guy he is, though. Like, Igni doesn't care. What would any of this matter to him, really, at the end of the day? Like, even for it, like, the 100 Years quest, really, in his mindset, is just them helping him out. Once we get to a point where Igni is more involved in the arcs, I'm hoping we spend a lot of time, though, since we've already seen him a good amount, that we get stuff that has more to do with his character. I would love to see Ignia actually have more general information on what he does on a daily basis to be given to us. Let me see. He's making jokes about Nurse Urza. Are you talking about Gray? The thing is, like, Grace had a good amount of spotlight. The problem is when it comes to comparing it to Gray's fighting stuff, is Grace had mostly character content, not fighting content. Laxus's Red Lightning, though, is a direct upgrade, but it's not something that it was a whole new concept added on to where we didn't have before. It's really expanding upon something we already knew he had. The thing about it, though, is Laxus getting an arc, like a character moment, like a primary character moment, is not going to happen every arc. You need to have reasons to bring him in, and while he's in, you have to have reasons to have, like, essentially of why you brought him in, and results of that. So that being why Laxus had a large focus in the Dogra arc, And the whole Dogre Labyrinth made a lot of sense. Whereas I think with Gray, as much as I still want Gray to get something new, it makes more sense for Gray not to have as much of a focus in that arc. He got some stuff, but I'm hoping that we get some of that in this arc. Like, if we're going to have some content generally just about him fighting and what we get. Because Gray doesn't need anything crazy. Like, he really just needs kind of like Lactus, like, oh, you just expand on the information with Red Lightning Dragon mode. Like, the Red Lightning really just kind of segues into, okay, cool, you have just a power-up form with that specific power. And then with Gray, like, all you really need is just to have him just give him a higher end form of his demon slaying form, of his devil form that we still don't have a name for. I already really, well, one, I like that idea too, of being able to turn into those dragons. It's going to be hard for them because, I mean, they've already defeated those dragons, but it sounds like Georg did a lot of the heavy lifting. Well, we know for Kieran's, Georg did all the heavy lifting because he was a child, but probably the same thing with Suzaku, to be honest. I'm more curious if he's going to make a concept embodiment of Georg, because Georg as their opponent would be really cool. We should get a side story with Diablos. It'd be interesting to see how their guild was created. I mean, we know a little bit. Well, like, we know about how Georg essentially built the guild while trying to get set up to do the 100 Years quest. It's just we don't have the Georg information. Like, the Georg information is the thing that we're in a complete dark spot with, and we have no knowledge of what this guy's kind of all about in total. Like, Georg is a neat character. I really hope that we get at least a fight like that with him, where we get his concept embodiments so we can see what he was like in combat. That would be so cool. I wish we got to see him versus God Serena, so we saw 4 types of dragon slaying attributes through 5th gen versus 8 through 2nd gen, and seeing how those all interacted. Duke over Ryzen? I mean, Ryzen really has, like, one scene in all of Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, Duke's really cool. I like Duke's scientist tone to him that he's maintaining pretty well. He's not fighting. He's staying in the back. He's making creations and letting them go out and do his stuff. It's gonna really come down, I think, to this next couple bits of when we peer into those chapters to give us an idea really about him in a larger scope. Because with him, I think what we need with him is something where it's like, oh, well, Natsu breaks through Athena 2 right before he like is able to land a punch on Duke. Duke just has another one just pop up, and he's prepared another Athena coming up, Athena 3. No, his name is Georg. It's Georg, like, Raisin. Not Raisin. I think it's Resin. Let me see what the officials are. I don't really know how much of the officials I take. I know the officials mess up stuff a decent chunk. Man, everybody's getting onto Baldur's Gate right now. I want to play, but I'm busy. I got to do some work after this, and then after that, I can get back to playing some games. Freaking playing hardcore WoW today and died at like level 13. I was so disappointed in myself. It's like, yeah, Raisin. He's a raisin man. Georg's his first name, though. See, I love his design. He has so many, and his silhouette panels are so cool. I love that panel where we're finding out about him forming Diablos. And it's like right after he's killed. I think is it 91 or 92? Man, Volume 11's color palette is really good. Let me see. Yeah, I think is it 91? Or is it 92? It might be 92. Yeah, because of his LS area, 92. I love looking at like the silhouette panel when he's telling about it. And it's like talks about how all the members of Diablos formed behind him. It looks so cool with the way that he is all cloaked up and how his design looks just from a silhouette. He looks like such a villain. He looks so cool. This is like one of those ones where you see and you know he's just going to be some edgy psychopath, but you're ready for it. And it's like this is where we see like the silhouette for all the members of Diablos. I'm still expecting there to be one secret member, like one pop-up person who's like stronger than the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights but weaker than Georg, but I don't know. The thing is, like, I prefer to call him Satoru because Gojo's his last name. So there's other Gojos. I think that's fucking stupid, though. Why? Because he's not the only person who has that name. And when people clearly just call him that, I think is a little confusing. Because it'd be like calling Sasuke Uchiha, calling Naruto Uzumaki, calling Ichigo just Kurosaki. Like, it makes sense to some degree, but you're talking about a character, so why are you using, like, a respect level? They call him Gojo-sama, pretty much. Like, go ahead, look like a clown. The only reason I stopped calling him Satoru as much is because people would get confused. There are other Gojos in the series. Gojo is his clan. It's his last name. And there's not even like something like Kaiba where Kaiba intentionally uses the last name to make it his. Gojo is his last name. So you're calling him by his clan name. You're calling him by his last name every time. That's why I was not a fan of calling him Gojo. Gojo is his last name. He's part of the Gojo clan. It's like, do you call Megumi by his first name? Do we call any of the other characters by their last names? You call them by their first names. Like, who calls Urza just Scarlet? I don't need to name the other ones. They exist in the verse. It's his last name. He's not the only one. There hasn't been a single thing in Jujutsu Kaisen that has said that he's the last member of the Gojo clan. There's no other Gojos. I bet if I looked it up right now, it's going to talk about the Gojo clan. There's going to be barely any information on it. Like the three sorcerer families, the Gojo family, one of the branches. We pretty much just have the freaking Zenins. Yeah, the only the known member that we actually ever get. Oh, he's a troll. Like, he does this all the time. It's like him and Sam. They do the same thing. They just troll my comments. See Georg versus Dallas happening, be a callback to Sting and Rogue versus Genma. Like, an actual one that, like, the thing about Genma that's really funny is we also know that he's, like, we have no, I think, ever naming of his magic. And even when he comes back as a demon, there's no naming of any of his abilities. He just does these melee attacks. But, I mean, he's a huge, huge clown. I love his demon design, though. I think his demon design is awesome. His normal design, I think, is cool. I think his demon design is awesome. I think Georg's regular design, though, is amazing. I love it. I love his design. I always have and always will. Unfortunately, he got murked by a character that I like more than him. That just kind of comes with the, you know, the dice roll of trying to swing too high up above you. Man. Yeah, Atlas just posts it's just the same troll bait all the time. I really wish I could get some trolls that at least were creative. It's the same jokes. It's the same thing. I name a character and they just downplay the character. They tell me something negative about Jalal. It's the same thing. Stopped being funny a while ago. It's just kind of boring at this point, but it is what it is. I mean, Genma couldn't even handle, like, Wizard Saint level people. Not really. Like, we know Georg. It's like, I don't even have to humor it. It's like, we know where Georg's at. We know where Genma's at, both versions. It's not even really a debate or a discussion. And on top of that, Genma didn't have anything interesting in even forming his guild. We just know that he got members, and then they got strong. Sabretooth's whole thing, though, if you paid attention, though, was more based on a lie and more based off of knowing that they were only at the top because other big people never participated and Fairy Tail was weakened over 7 years. So I think Ignia is the most dangerous. I do. The thing about Ignia, so if you look at all the different dragon gods, there's ways that each of them have gotten up to those spots. Selene, so far, Selene, Viernes, and Ignia are the ones that seem to have achieved it most naturally. But Igni is the youngest, so I think that he has the most general growth potential, but also we know about Igneal. So it's just like, especially like if his hyping of Igneal is real, like to where he was maybe just saying like, oh, pre-acting Loki, he was the strongest dragon, or if he means like, oh yeah, Igneal in his prime was the strongest dragon. I think it'd be cool if there was essentially like a dragon, different periods for dragons. Like, oh yeah, when Igneal, say it's like, oh, there used to be only so many dragons. Like, there used to just be like essentially like a boss dragon for every territory, for every country, a dragon pretty much was in charge. And then it's like, oh, primarily that was the fire dragons because they're the most prominent race of dragons. And then you just have Igneal, like, essentially be his own main character thing where he just goes around climbing up to the top, becoming the strongest dragon. And so at the time, Igneal in his prime was the strongest dragon on the planet, and maybe he changed, like, a different era for dragons, and not being friendly to humans, but more about how making it so dragons can spread and kind of grow in number. So then we get to where we saw earlier in the series, in flashbacks, where there's just lots of dragons all around. And it'd be like, oh, okay, well, the dragons kind of semi-coexisted with each other, with some having, like, strength and territorial kind of setups. So obviously it being, like, different dragon kings and whatnot. I think it'd be really cool if we could find out some just, like, dragon lore periods and find out more about, like, how they interact and their history. I think that'd be really cool. Kagura versus Kiria. Kiria would body her. Designers Pika probably does the most vicious dragon. So I would love to just see, like, some bits of them. Maybe the anime will do that. Gior got one shot by somebody dramatically above him. Like stuff like that. It's just like, yeah, if you're gonna try and fight somebody who's tiers above you and you get destroyed, that just happens. Like, that's just, like, what did you expect to happen? See, I don't agree with that. Jienma was never going to ever get to a spot because Jienma was never set to be important. Jienma was just supposed to set the tone of Sabretooth. We didn't have that with Georg. Georg's wasn't about the tone for it. On top of that, we know that even though he was a jerk, the Diablos members had a level of care and respect for Georg. He was like a rough around the edges guy, but it seems like ultimately he was a good guild master. Like, at the end of the day, he was a good guild master kind of thing. Whereas Jienma was just a piece of shit from the start and treated everyone very poorly. Because, like, I know they talked about how Georg wasn't the nicest, but I feel like if Georg was housing, like, children, like Kirin, Haku, we don't know which of the other ones, like, met Kirin when they were really young, but it seemed, or not Kirin, Georg, it seemed like Georg was a pretty accepting guy, and once you got on his good side, like, it seemed like he had at least something for you. I mean, from Kirin's side, like, he pretty much set him up to be powerful and set him up to be, like, a higher-end dragon slayer. He's like, hey, kid, let me kill this dragon for you. You eat his remains and then gain his power, and then you join my crew. We got it? Thumbs up. In terms of personality, no, because Georg's personality was just, we're the strongest. Like, we have to be the strongest. Blah, blah, blah. Georg's was more about how he wanted to consume the dragon gods. He wanted this, like, he had a hunger that needed to be sated, and he only had so much time, or, like, he was just too busy to do it on his own. There was more personality with Georg. There was way more about how when we would see him, we would see different sides of him. And, like, even when we got to the chapter where he dies, we see multiple different, like, angles and way his character is drawn in terms of his facial expressions, and then, like, finding out more about him. Like, oh, well, now after I eat Selene, I'm going to gain her powers, and I'm going to gain this ability to cross dimensions. Okay, well, what is his goal then? Is he just trying to collect powers? Or is there more to it that we haven't found out? Or, was always just going to get teased for it? Because with that, it's more of like it gives us actually goals and information about what he was doing. Why did he get on the 100 Years quest? Was it just for fame and power? Was it just for, like, the reward if he completed it? Or was it, like, did he have some reason where he didn't like dragons? Like, it gives us way more context clues and understanding of Georg's character every time we see him. Where Jienma, every time we see him, he's just this pissed off old guy. He's this pissed off old guy who's mad if anybody in his team loses, but he's not willing to actually do anything himself. That's the thing about him. Like, Georg, like, Gienma isn't a terrible character, but his character, like, he's effective at what he was supposed to do. What Gienma set out to do, he did, and he did his job effectively. People didn't like him because he's a douche, and that's exactly what you're supposed to think. Georg's weird because his character didn't feel like he was just going to die. Like, the thing is, like, people were shit-talking Celine all the way until that scene happened about losing to Suzaku. Like, I remember. So I know that, like, when people say, like, oh, he was gonna... Like, unless you just assume that, like, Celine had a plan, it was definitely not, like, a for sure that Georg was gonna die. It wasn't until, like, Celine went into her dragon form and was clearly fine that it was bad in Georg's favor, especially when it's like, oh, well, Georg is stronger than Suzaku. So before that panel, it didn't tell us anything about, like, the gap between Georg and Celine. And when you look at, you know, all these things all, like, compiled together, his death is just kind of abrupt. It is this sudden shock that I feel like a lot of people, like, pretend, oh, it was obvious. Like, we were going to get that for sure. Like, no, I remember what people were saying about Celine at the time of, so I know that's not true. Ignia, no, so E&D does not have a bloodthirst for battle. E&D has a destructive one-set mind on what the objective and what its program is set to. It's not that he wants to battle. It's that whatever his anger and his mindset is honed and directed at, that's what he's going to do. Ignia seems to just like combat. Those are two different things. I'm just going to time out Sam again. I just don't even wanna. Tomorrow we should be good on the chapter release, on doing a stream for that. It's gonna depend. Like I said, my schedule for this new job, it's gonna vary, not a lot. It's more of just gonna be like, you know, which ones are gonna be later in the day streams and what. Tuesday's gonna depend because it seems like Tuesday's just gonna want to be one of those times where it depends on what's going on at work. But that is what it is. As it were, we're going to be working towards, obviously, tomorrow is going to be the chapter. I'm going to be hyped about that. I think it's going to be a fun chapter. I don't expect it to be wild. I'm expecting it more to be Brandish Lucy wrecking her respective opponents. We're going to be getting Sai. I think Sai is going to be done pretty fast. And then Ganai is going to get handled with not a lot of effort. Well, like I said, I don't really see what they do if Lucy just shrinks them. Because I don't think she's going to instantly be able to just to do any of Brandish's spells right off the bat. But I think it's something that she knows enough of how it works. She's seen it and had it explained to her in mid-combat to where she's going to be able to use it in more just... Essentially, like, she just has to look for the best opportunities to hone it out. And I think that's all she really needs. I mean, I don't think that he really has a problem with trying to escape. I think he's just asking him. Like, it's like, what, like, they're just in a room? But on top of that, like, he doesn't really have a choice. Like, they have to get through the games, really, don't they? He's got his Machina Maker, but, I mean, like, it only works so far. But at the same time, like, he knows when he's going to be okay and when he's going to be in danger. On top of that, I feel like Shiki could bust out of there if he just went full power. Like, I want to see Shiki put on the Ziggy route again. Well, Lucy doesn't have to really become a master at it. She just has to practice it a few times. I actually really would like that stuff like that is what I really want to see. Like, I want to see what Georg's reasoning for selecting people. Was it just like, oh yeah, they had like pretty strong magic for like children, or did it have to do with like something he noticed in their personalities? Like, Georg holds a lot of general potential for Diablos and Diablos expansion, but that's obviously going to depend on what exactly Mishima wants to do with them. I think it'd be really cool if we got that in the anime. Like, because I know that they talked about, like, there's just rumors right now that the anime is going to come back and be weekly. The only way they could do that is if they've been really working on 100 Years Quest anime for a while and they get a lot done before the anime even comes out. But more so, I see it more of an issue if they don't do the obvious. They don't have to go crazy in terms of the regular animation. Just make it so it's nice and run through it. Don't do anything to ruin tone. Add, like, anytime you add additional content, make sure that it is valuable and adds to the story. And then any of the hype stuff, like, that's where they need to go crazy for animation. Don't slack when it comes to, like, hype, like anything wild. Like, especially like when we get to stuff like Natsu going to Zetheria's Dragon Force for the first time. I don't want to see bad animation. I want that to be where they pop off and really do crazy things, because that's what everybody wants. Is you want things to be wild at the time of, like, when you expect things to be wild. Didn't Xeno teach Shiki use either when he was tied up in the chapter that he can't? Wasn't a body thing, and on top of that, like, isn't this not the same as the physical world? See, I have to reread the last couple chapters to really kind of see what it is. Because also what I understand when it comes to like being immune to being tied up and like having your ether restricted, it has to do with control and flow of like your ether. So I wonder if it's just more difficult for him to kind of catch up in a younger body, because it seems to be more of a technique thing and not as much a power level thing. Which 100 says weekly. I get why, but still. The thing about it is, like, a way they could probably do it soon. I think they should do it to, like, one chapter every month is weekly. So it's, like, at one point every month, you get 2 chapters back to back. And then it's like, okay, well, now I got to wait 2 weeks for the next one. And then after that, you wait 2 weeks. And then, bam, another one. It's essentially getting, like, 3 every month instead of 2. Just like that one edition, I think, would be extremely hype. See, I don't think we're going to get a CGI Mercephobia. Like, there's never really been CGI dragons in the series. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to make things intentionally look wonky. And the only reason that they even did that in One Piece is so they can hype up other parts. Like, obviously, like, any of the times that they've skimped on CGI Kaido, it's because they're boosting up, making the rest of it look nice. I actually really like the visual in the last episode. Like, just like the general stuff, like Luffy and him fighting, like, I don't really care about. Like, it's cool, but like that's not what I'm looking for. I like the neat little visual additions, like when Luffy was hanging upside down on the cloud. I think that would just be really cool from a visual standpoint. He's standing essentially on this, on the underside of the clouds, looking down at the fight. I think that's just really cool to think about. See, I don't have any issue with any animation studio. It depends on time, budget, and the people behind it. Like, we've seen Periot, when Periot's being rushed and they put out shit, and then they show what they actually can do when they have time and effort and the money to build a proper project. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And then people say, well, it's this company or it's this staff. But, like, what happens when they actually are able to get things done properly? When they actually want to get their product out at a good time, and they have the proper stuff behind it, and it's not just them being forced at an unbelievable time frame. Like, people have shown that all the time. So I mean, like, look at, for instance, like current Marvel content. Like, they're pressing stuff hard, and so it comes out looking like shit. And then you look at stuff from like years back, and some of their movies still hold up well. As long as the 100 Years Quest anime doesn't get pressured hard, I think it'll be fine. It just depends. Like, if they get shit on for like schedules and what exactly their release plans are gonna be, I think it'll be fine. Georg versus God Serena. I would give my money to Georg just based off of what we've seen. Georg's 4, like, even though we don't know them, you could guess that it probably has to do with the 4 Dragon Slayer Knights. Like, the 4 Dark Dragon Slayer Knights, it's probably their respective 4 attributes. Can't say for sure, but at least from what we've seen, I'd be willing to bet his 4 weird, probably OP dragon attributes are better than the 4 that God Serena has. Like, just guessing. Like, I'd be willing, like, we don't know. Like, only Mishima knows. But I'd be willing to bet money on that. Like, once he gets his revealed, if we actually had a demonstration, I'm sure we would have a much better display of like him just doing stuff. Because like having regular elements isn't going to matter too much if you can just bust out like really crazy niche powers. Where Georg's in terms of sprint level. Personally, I think Georg is up there with the August and Irene, just based off of what we've seen stuff like Suzaku do, and we know for a fact that Suzaku is weaker than Georg. It's just hard because Georg got completely demolished by somebody that's way higher level than all of them. So it just builds like an uncertainty gap. Like Georg, I'm hoping that we get the concept embodiment of him for sure, though. Like his whole display, like holds high potential for Diablos 2, especially he looks so damn cool. We need to get this guy out there. Laxus with 2 Lacrimas? I don't know about that. I don't know if I'd really be game for that. I think he's fine with just one. Because he's already got a second attribute. I don't think he needs another thing. I mean, blood magic is essentially it is. But like, I would rather him just like branch off with that, get more blood magic rather than get a completely additional element on top of what he already has. Like, I don't even know if Laxus would count as a second gen anymore. It's really weird after eating like the magic soul of Alexion. Because he ripped the Lacrima out of his body, so really would he count as a second gen anymore? Personally, I think it is hard to really say, just based off of the definitions. I think he's closer to a 5th gen now. I really hope to get a follow-up on that, but it's going to depend on what Mishima's general plans are, because we might get that in, like, a million years from now. People talking about Laxus now. How broken E&D can be easily do with Vierna's concepts. I mean, yeah, but he's like supposed to be pretty much the strongest thing in the series next to Ceramics, and not stronger. I can't wait to see like I want to see that form again. Like, we've been waiting on that. Think about that. It's been over 100 chapters. It's been years we've been waiting to see exactly what Natsu can pull out again for that form. Like, it's been, what, like 4+ years since we've seen anything like that? I want to see some E&D moments. I want to see Natsu go crazy. I could see Duke fighting, raising a single finger. Oh, he's like a scientist inventor, so I think it would make sense for him to just be every time that Natsu defeats one of the Athenas that he ends up pulling out another one. Like, Igneous just gonna play into his emotion. I mean, he's just gonna do stuff to make him mad. Like, he knows. He's been paying attention. Like, he's been watching him. We know for a fact he's been watching him. Like, you act like Jalal isn't in a fight with God Serena literally right now. Literally right now they're fighting. So I have no idea why you're bringing this up. I don't understand, like, the weird hate boner that some people have for Jalal. Like, Jalal's like one of the best characters in the series. If Wolfen doesn't come back, well, Wolfen might be dead. Like, he might just be gone. Like, we don't know that for sure, but I'm willing to bet he's dust. Man, Dragon Slayer magic still considered a lost magic? Yeah, I mean, it's still lost magic. There's only a couple people with it in the world. The thing is, like, even though we're at a point where we're seeing it more commonly now, it's at a point where when you think about it, where it's like, oh yeah, you can have like 20 to 30 of them, but it's not going to matter if those are the only ones in the whole world. There's only a few of them that they exist out there, so it's really going to depend. They are improving. One day stream the Fairy Tale Guild game. I mean, I could stream the game. Laxus is cool, but Jalal is just cooler. Do I think Viernes would be a group fight? Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people against Viernes. My hopes is that Celine and them come back, but they're distracted, or there's got to be something. Like, what reason is Celine's group still preoccupied? I think it'd be really cool if we had something like they were dealing with, like Ignia essentially intercepted them, and he was doing some crazy shit with them too. No, I like Jalal better. I think Jalal's cooler, and plus Jalal's got a better story. Anyway, my guys, we've got a little bit of time left. If you guys got any more general questions, I'm going to wrap this up soon. I've got some stuff I need to get accomplished before the end of the night. As it were, mostly just talking about stuff before this the chapter tomorrow. I'm very excited just to see how Lucy handles this. I know that, like, them just underestimating her. I just want this to be one of those moments where people get flexed on. Like, I want to see Ganai and Sai just get bodied. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Like I said, just as a reminder, we're going to have the community Terraria game set up on Saturday. So join the Discord. I'll post the Discord again if anybody hasn't joined yet, wants to join. And we'll get everything rolling. So if that sounds fun, like I said, just join the membership set on the side. All you got to do is click on there. And we're going to get some more stuff developed. But for right now, I think that just having like a fun group day is going to be fun regardless. If you've never played Terraria especially. Because that game is, I don't care. That game is a good game. I wonder if they're ever going to make a sequel. Because didn't they do their last DLC a while ago? I want to say they did it a couple years back. Like 2020 to 2021 is when they put in the last major patch.